am Sawyer, State Representative from the 55th District, representing the towns of Andover, Bolton, Hebron, and Marlborough. Tonight I have a very special guest that I brought from another media and thought it would be really fun to have, because he has such a breadth of knowledge, not only of Connecticut, but he's going to make me laugh before I can even get the introduction out. Not only Connecticut, but the country and the world. So I'd like to introduce to you Ray Dunaway, who I've dragged out of radio, brought into TV, just because I think that he's got an insight to where we are going, I think, with radio today.
I'm not sure where we're going with this show, but
you
okay.
Watch.
We're
going to have a good time.
This is your show.
We're going to have a good time.
All right,
with this.
Pam, anything.
So just because most people will know your voice and perhaps haven't seen your face, now that they'll know that you're not short.
It's be a treat.
And it'd be a treat. You know, you started a long time ago, you said, in your basement.
Yeah, I had a pirate radio station. And
how old?
Well, actually, when I was like fifth grade, maybe, wanted to I've always wanted to do this, so I'm very lucky. You know, a lot of people have not, and I've been doing this a long time, as you guys can tell. But I'm actually only 23 years old. It's what radio does to you.
We adjusted the lights for the glow of
But
the
no,
hair.
I started it, you know, and there was this kid next door, and his dad had gotten him one of these, it was a night kit, AM broadcast something, and so, you know, it'd broadcast through your house. So I really wanted one badly. So my parents got me one for Christmas, and the guy across the street put it together, Mr. Clark. And so, I mean, ultimately, what we found out was this thing would only broadcast through the house. But if you took two of them and put them in series, and then you plugged a 10-watt amp in, and then you wired everything in the house, okay, the gutters, every TV antenna, everything, you could actually go pretty far. So we ended up going we had about a 5-mile range. And we did a survey every week, like a music survey, and one of the record stores down in the shopping center let us put up our survey, and they'd also supply us with records.
Wow.
Yeah. So and this guy's dad, Paul Clark's dad, built like this whole studio for us.
So you had a couple turntables.
We had a couple turntables. We actually
You'll key up the record, right?
Yep. And I actually recorded the commercials off the radio, so we'd have commercials, and then we'd. We had I had a little cassette recorder. I had one of the first ones. You know, it was kind of exciting. And then we'd also call other radio stations and win prizes and then give them away. So I think we had some Paul Revere and the Raiders tickets that I won once. So we gave those away. I think we had like 3 listeners. But anyway, so one night I'm driving around with my girlfriend and we're listening to the station because we were on Saturdays and Sundays. And I'd get up and do the 7 o'clock show because I didn't want to get up any earlier than that. And so we do that, then the next guy'd come in, you know, we had a whole staff. And so I'm driving around listening to the station one day, and I see this van like 2 blocks away with government license plates and a bunch of antennas on it. And so I, gunned home. We shut that puppy down because there was in Kansas City, there was an FCC regional monitoring office. So I have feeling we probably went 10 miles with their antennas. They probably could pick us up, so they were out scoping us out. So we shut down for a little bit. We kept going, kept going. It was fun.
You know, when you think about the mischief that kids get into, you really think.
Yeah, this was, reasonably clean,
This gave the government something to do,
The only thing we got in trouble, I know. Well, it was $10,000 and how many years in prison? I can't remember, but it was, the statutes were not lenient.
So I went to college, and some of the kids that I hung out with were radio station guys at URI. So there was this little discussion back and forth, and they needed fill-ins for Sunday morning because nobody wanted to get up Sunday morning, and nobody wanted to do classical. So in I go to do all this stuff. Well, I found out that those are great guys at 7:30 at night because they would all go over to the pub.
Sure.
And at that time, you could drink between 18 and 21. So there's always somebody to hang out with in the evenings.
Yeah, good times.
It was, But having to go through the FCC and get your 3rd-class license and then work up from that, and I didn't have a clue. I had taken a number of science courses, so at least ohms and a few other words.
Yeah, it's
I could
not
spell.
real hard.
I could spell, from there. So it was.
I didn't need one until I was working in Los Angeles.
But I had to drive. Really?
Yeah.
I had to drive from Southern Rhode Island all the way up to Boston to go take the test.
Yeah, I had to go I was living in the Valley, and I had to go down to Long Beach on the 405. That was like a 2-hour trip. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, it was just awful. But yeah, that was kind of weird because I'd worked in Detroit, didn't need one. Worked in Dallas, didn't need one.
Yeah.
worked in Topeka, Kansas, and didn't need one. You know, in my basement, I certainly didn't need one. So.
Well,
and I don't need one now, so that's kind of a good thing. You know what I'm saying?
So you did come to the Hartford market though as a kid in college.
Well, yeah, I went to a private school, boys' school, and Pembroke Country Day Preparatory School for Boys, which now is merged with Sunset Hill, which is now it's called Pem Hill, and you know so that's co-ed. But anyway, so at that time, Eastern colleges were, and one of the things, a lot of the guys that I was in class, I had like 55 guys in my class, and usually you went someplace else to go to college, and then ultimately you start filtering back. And so Trinity was recruiting out there, and a classmate of mine, Tom Green, and I both were you know accepted. But I later found out from John Matulis, who does Law Talk on TIC, and was a classmate of mine as well. John told me that he thinks that it was kind of a diversity program, and in those days, everybody who went to Trinity either went to like you know St. Paul's or the Choate School or Phillips Exeter or something. So they figured, let's broaden our student body. Now we could bring in women, we could bring in you know even a minority, but let's start with guys from the Midwest. You know, so it was to help these guys broaden their experience, diversity.
Is that
you know
what
what I'm
that
saying?
was?
I'm sure that's probably
Must
part
be.
of it.
Must be.
I mean, I had good SATs, but I mean, you know, come on, I was an indifferent student. Let's be real here.
Well, some people take their time. Let's leave it at that.
I'm a late bloomer, yeah.
You know, I should say that Ray has a morning program, and he starts at 5:30 in the morning.
Yes, I do. Yes, ma'am.
That's on air. But
Yeah.
what I know is because I'm an early morning riser, that there's a news program
Yeah, they have
between
the sunrise
5 and 5:30, and
5:30.
you live now. You know, I remember when the radio station, because WTIC is actually what brought my husband and I here to Connecticut, because he did the traffic reports.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
He
right.
did, and he worked with Bob Steele, and when they had a helicopter.
Yeah.
So Mr. Chase hired him and bought the helicopter and got him as the pilot, and off we went. So we moved from Rhode Island over to here.
Yeah, we were in the Gold Building.
And
then.
you were in the Gold
that was
Building at that
great.
time. And when we came for the interview, it was just after the Civic Center had collapsed.
Oh, no.
And it was February 6th in the morning. They said there was going to be snow, and it was 1978. And so it was going to snow. Okay, that was great. So no problem. We came over very early in the morning, had a quick meeting. They thought we should leave by 9 o'clock. You better leave because the forecast is getting worse. And we did leave, and 4 inches of snow by 9 o'clock. And by the time we got back to Rhode Island, there were 17 inches and 54 inches by the time the storm was over. So my first memory of Hartford at the Gold Building was watching the snowflakes start.
Oh yeah.
And getting home in an old Fiat that the timing belt
Yeah.
broke at the end of the road.
And we used to love it. That was a great place for snow, because like if it was really going to be a bad storm, they'd keep us downtown, so they'd get us hotel rooms and such. And so, you know, we'd stay down there, and usually we'd go out and have dinner someplace on the company, which was great. And then invariably after a couple of beverages, it'd be 10 o'clock at night, and I'd say, I think it's time to go on the air. So we'd go up to the Gold Building, because the station, this is even before the internet. We were on the internet. We got up into Quebec and upstate Vermont and all this. So you'd have the snow party on the air, and it was a ball.
So nighttime's different. Is it still different? Does it still have an antenna switch?
Yeah, we still do that, and basically it's the nature of AM radio, and so yeah, I mean, I've had people call me from Delaware, old classmates of mine, saying, "Hey, I just heard you. It's kind of cool." And on the Cape, we come in very well at night. Daytime AM doesn't go as far, so that's the way that works.
So how much time do you have to get up in the morning to do a 5:30 show?
You should get up about 8. I usually the first 2.5 hours of sleep, and then about 8 o'clock is just kind of, wow, yeah, I am here. It was kind of exciting. No, I've gotten it down to a science, Pam. It used to be, you get like Brad Davis. Brad Davis probably gets up at 2 o'clock. You lunatic! I'm amazed you're still alive. And then he does his push-ups, and all that stuff, being the ex-Marine. And yeah, Brad, I'm sure is there at 3 o'clock, going through the papers, drinking coffee and all that. No, me, I used to do that, but now it's more like I'm pretty well set by the time I go to bed. So usually I get up around 4:30, 4:20, and I have it's like being a fireman, and it is radio. So the good thing about radio is you can just have your clothes on the floor, who cares? So it's kind of like, the alarm goes off, and I say a few choice words every morning, nothing original there. And, put on my clothes and go to work.
Fly out the door.
And then make coffee, and then I'm there. So, but yeah, usually we're pretty well, we'll be set by 2 o'clock this afternoon as to what we're going to be doing. Although that can change at any moment, so.
So your prep time is really after the show.
My prep time is life. I mean, I don't. I mean that. I mean that in a serious sense. In that, it's just, everything is prep. So if I do an event that night, like a charity event, I do quite a few of those, and so there's something, and the kids are always doing something, and I've got to mow the yard, and I've got to paint the house, and so. There's, I do the laundry, cook dinner.
You're a Renaissance man.
And I do all the cooking. I mean, I love to cook. And so, and then, I spend a lot of the afternoon either reading or online. Online has been just, it's so changed the business.
Well, we certainly know a couple of your people that you do work with, because Scott Gray is from east of the river.
Yeah.
Angela's
from Colchester, for God's sake.
Colchester, which doesn't cover here, but on this station. But you talk to Tim Devaney on a regular basis
Timmy,
about food.
My buddy.
About food.
Highland
and,
Park.
Getting ready for whatever the next event is that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and Angela, and once again, I'm lucky because I live in Avon. So, it's now that we're in Farmington, it's like nothing, Although, what's really weird, Pam, when I first moved here, and that was 92, I came back. And number one, I was really surprised because I'd left, I was class of 72, so I hadn't been back forever, okay? And this was the first time I came back. They flew me in for the interview and all that. And I was really floored by what had happened in Hartford. And I mean in a positive sense. It was, the Gold Building was there. What was the Executive Plaza? Chase had built a bunch of buildings. He had City Place. He had, all those. The Goodwin Hotel had been, refurbished and all that. And it was really impressive. And the one thing that always hacks me off is that we really underestimate ourselves around here and the potential that really is here. And if you go away for a while and you come back, you go, wow, this is pretty cool. So that. But when we were downtown, I really enjoyed that. Now Angela has to get up. So I miss being downtown is what I'm saying here. I do. I used to love, look out the window and go, I own this. Not really, but not really. The other thing, the other thing is though, and this, I'm telling you, this is the biggest, it's so trivial. I wish you guys, the legislature would do something about this.
Uh-oh.
No, parking. When we were in the Gold Building, okay, I had a parking card. I was paying $200 a month for parking, okay. But I'd come downtown, and I'd just sit there, and I'd, put in my parking card. And if I had something going on at the Civic Center, I wanted to go see the Whalers or UConn basketball or something, I could just park, and it was no big deal.
Because you had the card.
Yeah. Now, it's like, I went down, I think we saw Tina Turner a couple of years ago, right around Christmas. And, these guys were, it was like event parking, and it was like $20 or $15 or something like that. And then the other night I was going to Burger Baby, same thing. There was some event at the Civic Center, the XL Center, and it was like $15. And I'm going like, yeah, you really want people down here, don't you?
It's one of the problems in Hartford.
They've got to do something about it. Scott's been on it forever because some people were here for, I think it was the Big East Women's Tournament? I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I think it was. And they were writing tickets to people, who were parked on the street.
He's very clear on that when he does the sports.
Yeah, you want them here,
Absolutely.
So, that really is a problem. And I think part of the reason that, like Blueback Square and I think to a degree even Evergreen Walk and some of those places have become the new downtowns because you don't have to really pay to park. It's very reasonable. There's critical mass down there. I really wish we'd gotten started on that far earlier than we did. So I don't know what's going to happen with Front Street. I don't know.
What, the ghost town?
Yeah, the movie set. No, I don't. That's where Blueback Square should have been, and get people down there. I lived downtown when I first got here for a little bit because the family wasn't here.
Sure.
And I was living at Bushnell on the Park, And I loved it. I really did. It was great. They had concerts in the park. You
Wadsworth.
had the ambulances going over to Hartford Hospital. It was 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was great.
Singing away.
But the only problem was, and it's still a problem, was finding a grocery store. So I'd have to go over to East Hartford. I'd have to go up to Bloomfield and what was it that time, Edwards or whatever it was, or West Hartford. So there was a little market across the street, but they were just gouging you, so that's no good.
So radio today compared to 92, 20-year span here in Connecticut, in Hartford, and you've gone from analog
to digital. Well, we're still analog. I mean, we do high definition, which is okay. The problem with radio is, I think, it's been too little, too late. I mean, in other words, we're in better shape, I think, on AM for one thing, but number two, because we're not a music station. Because quite frankly, got my dumb little phone here. We were talking about this off the air, but I can listen to stations all over the world. I've got Pandora. I've got Slacker radio. I can program a channel and hear what I want to hear.
Right.
And they'll mix it up for me. So, I mean, it's the thing, and I think the guys at CBS are pretty good about this, is that they figured the way you're going to survive and thrive is to be local. So our sister station, WRCH, tries to be as local as possible. 96.5, same thing. We're very involved in the community and all that. ZMX, same thing, 93.7, Hot 93. And then us. And local is where it is. I mean, you've got to be local. And that's the only way you're going to survive, because you can listen to the tunes anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your iPod, you've got your, like I say, you've got, your Pandora, you've got, so it really has changed. A lot of things are great, though. And I think the internet, even though you could damn it in a sense, because it's competition, some guy could be listening to somebody in Boston instead of me. Well, great. But the one thing it's done is, because I remember, like, you're dying for material, okay? You are. If you're doing 3.5 hours, you're dying for stuff. And, it used to be, if you wanted to get the New York Times, you'd have to, when I was in Kansas City, for example, you'd have to go downtown to the Time to Read news store, and somewhere around all the pornographic magazines and all that stuff, you'd find the New York Times, or be out, and then it'd be 2 days late, right, or 3 days later. Now, you can go online, and it's like these things, they talk about all the time, it's a cliche, but they go viral. And so, this morning I was talking about something out of the San Francisco Chronicle, and it was basically, they're going to have the America's Cup, okay?
That's right.
Now, they want to have a study, it's $150,000, to see if in fact the sailboats will frighten the birds that are native to San Francisco Bay. Because they're afraid that if they get too frightened, okay, they might hurt themselves. So, it's...
And it gives you fodder.
It's a great story.
Get you going.
Yeah, but the one thing that is a problem, though, I think it tends to make you think life is more abnormal than it really is. I think it does tend to, you can become totally absorbed in it.
Well, those of us that grew up with the Boston Herald, the Providence Journal, the New York Times.
Great papers.
So, those of us on the other side of the state. And you thought, well, this is the way the world is. Well, then the internet comes along and you find news of the weird. And it becomes addictive for a short time.
It does.
Because like, whoa, look at this.
Yeah.
Wow. And the news reports of the crazy criminals, who do the...
Right. Dumb crime stories are the best.
You love. I've heard so many.
There's a great website, fark.com. All kinds of them if you want to check it out. FARK.com. Great website. Lots of material.
And so what you've done with your show is... where you used to go and talk about what books you read and who said what, and what newspapers it came out of. You now show websites through the website,
right?
What your greatest links are and what's going on.
Yeah.
And so people have contact with you not only through listening to you in the morning, who is the player of the game from the Red Sox or whatever.
Right. Latest news, whatever.
And
weather, endless weather.
Which New England loves.
I know. We're weather freaks around here.
It's character.
They're weather freaks.
It's character.
Everywhere.
It is. But they also find you on the internet.
Yeah.
And you play the internet game.
Don't you do? And you'll get, I don't do so much phone talk, But, Jim or John or any of the guys will be getting calls from, St. Louis or, North Dakota, for that matter, or probably Sweden, I suppose. I mean, it's possible. So yeah, it's really expanded it, and now you're almost, but you still have to maintain the local thing, and it kind of goes back to a scene from Midnight Cowboy, that wonderful cheery movie back in 1969, and Joe Buck is on the bus because he's going to go to New York and he's going to make a lot of money being a male, whatever, and. So anyway, he's on the bus and they're in the Meadowlands, and he has his little portable radio, and the lady's on the bus next to him, and he turns it on. It's WABC, and it's Ron Lundy, as a matter of fact. And he goes, "Listen, lady, that's New York talking." Okay, well, in a sense, that's kind of what you're supposed to do. So you're supposed to make your town sound good. I mean, that's really our job. And it's sometimes hard, Pam, with the legislature, but not you. You're one of the good ones. You're one of the good ones. Now, most of them are pretty good people. They really are. They mean well. They're just wrong. So.
But let me tell you what you hear at the legislative office building, and that is when people are talking about media, who's doing what. I'm going to be on TIC.
Yeah.
That is because you are so big, and then if they're really talking to almost anybody, they'll say, "I'm on Dunaway."
Yeah, okay, there you go.
You've become such a name, and in the market, and one of the great quotes I grabbed and it's really fun to play on the internet from somebody from the other party. Oh yeah, buddy, this is what you got to sit through for just 1 minute. The Hanging Shad, which is Pat Scully.
I love Scully.
Pat Scully used to work for the Senate
Democrats. Or maybe
Democrats.
I won't love him.
No, you're gonna love this. This is after your incredible time on the
the storm.
Station after the storm, and he says, "Make no mistake about it." He said, "The latest weather disaster proves that WTIC AM radio morning man Ray Dunaway is the undisputed king of radio in the Hartford, Springfield, New Haven market. No one else is even close. AM, FM, internet morning shows." And he says, this is what I loved. "Dunaway is a maestro, a luminary, the head honcho." And then he says, "the big kahuna." That's what you get, buddy. He says, "Well, you get the picture."
Well, Pat was great. Pat used to listen every morning, and this is when Dianne was working with me. And as you said, he was with the Senate Democrats. And we'd get on and start talking about something. I mean, it could be like 5:40 in the morning. Nobody should be awake at that time. And he'd call up and say, "I think you got that wrong." He did a great job for those guys. He really did. I mean, he did a wonderful job. And I really do want to be fair. I mean, I don't think it's any secret. I would tend to be more of a Republican than I am a Democrat. But what the heck? I'm there for them too. And give them a shot. And some of them are pretty interesting guys. The thing that's really weird is like when I first got here. I thought Don Williams was like, this far left. Now I think he's moderate. So I don't even know if the state's gone this way or what. But yeah.
Well, it's a blue state. There's no question.
Well, it is, and that's fine. There are a lot of potential in this state. I just kind of get frustrated at times.
Now, this is the fun thing. I don't know the people, if they're not super morning people, know that your first guests come on, if they're your friends, 6:20.
Yeah.
And you get the call, "Would you mind going on at 6:20?
Oh,
and your eyebrows go up, say, "Sure." Now, let's see, what time do I have to get up to wake up? And then you start talking to yourself. People don't know this. You start talking to yourself in the mirror so you sound coherent to make sure the tongue is working at the same speed as your brain. And you have to time everything just right to be there. And you have to call just a few minutes before.
Yes, we know you're there.
Because the last thing you want is Ray Dunaway
to say, "Where are you?
Where are you?" I don't know where he is. He was supposed to call in. He didn't call in. I'm sure he got caught up, but
I have to apologize to Chris Donovan because he was going to be on one day. And somehow my producer and I got, Speaker of the House. And we got our wires crossed somehow. And we thought he was supposed to call us, or I thought, dumb boy here. And so he didn't call. I went, geez, man, you know what time on this radio station's worth and all that? So all of a sudden his people call and "You were supposed to call us." So, Mr. Speaker, I apologize again here on Community Access because, you do stupid things once in a while. You really do.
But you have an average of 3 to 4 guests in a 3.5 hours.
On a good day, yeah.
And that's with all the other news quips that you do and all the other
There's a lot going on.
chit-chat that you're going on. Plus you have your off-air time. People are trying to catch you for doing whatever, and you have 5 minutes for yourself. And then you come right back and you have to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
The nice thing is, and this is one thing I do like about not being in the Gold Building, it's no secret I'm doing my part to fund S-CHIP and children's health by smoking. And I'm giving this, I'm doing this for the kids, okay?
Doing this for the kids.
And so anyway, plus, you probably won't have to pay me Social Security as long. So I'm doing a lot for this country. But one of the things we used to do was, in the Gold Building, we were on the 19th floor. So if I wanted to have a smoke, I'd have to get in the elevator. And the Gold Building at that time had the fastest elevators in the state.
19th floor.
They were nice Otis elevators. They flew, because UTC, right? So we'd go down to the ground floor, sneak a couple of smokes, then come back up. And, there were certain times you just couldn't do it because you wouldn't make it back. Now, you just step outside, go back in. It's wonderful. So that's a good thing.
Lake Solhaney. We've got about 2 minutes left.
Oh, God.
So why don't you just share, what are some of your most memorable times on the air?
I honestly, the times that I enjoy the most, and it was probably hell for everybody else in the world, was I love that storm. I love being on the air when it's, what really matters. And, there were a lot of people out there that were in even the hurricane and then, the October, November storm. It's like, it's a nice feeling to know that at least, you're there for them. And you really do feel, you put away all the politics, you put away all the opinion, and you're just talking to people. I mean, it was great. I'd go on sometimes at night just because I was sleeping at the station. So, because I had no power at the house, didn't for like 8 days.
Yeah.
And so I'd go home, feed the dogs, and I'd come back. I had an air mattress in one of the offices. And so, sometimes at night I'd just say, I'll go on, what the heck. And it was cool because you'd have people call up and you'd go, and they'd be doing things like, it was weird. The first couple of nights, everybody's treating it like a novelty. Oh, we got a fire going. The kids all came over. We're playing Parcheesi or something. I imagine by about the fourth or fifth night, you're going, okay, that's it. Kids, go get online. But no, it was. I think that's probably the most fun I've ever had. It's fun to talk to a lot of people. I mean, it was fun being on the radio in Los Angeles. It was fun being on in Dallas. It's just, the great thing about radio is it is everywhere. And so you just, as Paul McCartney once said, you never know who could be listening to you. And you don't know. And that's the great thing about it. What
a great way to end the show. I want to say thank you very much for being on today, Ray Dunaway from WTIC. You can catch him if you get up as early as 8:30 in the morning.
8:30 would be fine.
5:30 in the morning.
I'm pretty good by then.
It's pretty good by then, but he's also Saturday mornings. It doesn't get much better.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, and thank you for listening today.